because the second element that comes in is acceleration. Now, already in the beginning of the 19th century, Goethe complained that events were happening so fast, that he pleaded for not acceleration but deceleration of the events, you see. I think that would do us good too today, but we have acceleration. And that means that acceleration combined with ubiquitousness and simultaneity, means that we are, all of us, in the position of a pilot in a fighter bomber over Afghanistan, who no longer perceives the targets he is hitting, nor does he ever have time to perceive the consequences once he has hit them. And I think that's our situation as well, you see. And the added to this is the miniaturization of production processes. That is to say, in the old days, you could sit next to Mr. Daimler and see that he was building a Mercedes. Nowadays, you have in the Toyota company, you have nothing but robotics. You have nothing but robots. You have no way anymore of knowing how the production process proceeds. Nor do you know when you do something what the consequences are going to be. In the old days, we knew the consequences of our actions. Today, this is no longer possible. Whatever we do has been miniaturized, has been through technology, has been gestellt in a way that we no longer can predict the consequences of our actions, which has also something to do with a sense of responsibility for certain actions that has also gotten lost. And the other element that has come in, and that has something to do with what you might call the Zeitgeist, is the loss of distinction between real events and virtual events. I think there is a generation, not perhaps yours yet, but the next, that can no longer distinguish between what they see on television as true or what they see on television as fictional or as something that is that has a virtual reality only. That is to say, all of our reality is becoming through the media and through technology in general is becoming virtualized, and and that is. That becomes particularly obvious in the reporting on wars nowadays. You see, the reporting on the two Iraq wars in the United States was a reporting as if it were a mini-series, and also the names that these reports are being given, Operation Desert Storm, Infinite Freedom, things like that, sound like they are Hollywood movies, you see. And the people really, many people in the United States, first of all, they don't know where Iraq is on the map. They can't find it if they try. And they also begin to believe that it is yet another mini-series, that like many other mini-series that they have seen, and the tremendous destruction of human and material resources through these operations doesn't come home to them anymore, you see. It is like another thing they've seen on television, you see. And that, I think, is a loss of reality. And a loss of reality, a distancing of between real events in the real world and fictionalized events in the mediated virtual world, that has gone away. It has gone away, and that is, I think, ubiquitous. That happens in all societies. It's not just in the West. So that you can no longer talk about the decadent West and the good guys and the non-decadent East or something like that. With the ubiquitousness of technological, virtual machines, you have you create a zeitgeist that makes the distinction impossible. And that, I think, is extremely serious, because it is not only epistemologically a problem, but it is also ethically a problem. Because when you do no longer know the distinction between something virtual and something real, and if you no longer can have a knowledge of the impact of your actions, the consequences of your actions, then a sense of responsibility for what you're doing gets lost also. You see, and therefore it is an epistemological decline, it is an ethical decline. It may be an aesthetic gain, some of these virtual things are beautiful, but it is definitely a loss. And together with that, one other aspect might be, and this is of course particularly important perhaps to say in Asia, because Asia used to be the part of the world where knowledge, experience of aged people, of old people, was particularly cherished. This, I think, is very, very fast disappearing. I think that experience, life experience, wisdom, things like that, have no currency anymore. And this is not only because our culture is a youth culture. I think it is rather because our culture has become technologically influenced to the point that we think that these things, human beings, human wisdom, human experience, have to be exchanged as fast as cars. Every 5 years, every 10 years, I buy a new vehicle because of a new generation, or in the computer world it's even faster. And only what is new, only what has just been put on the market, only that has a value, So I think that is also a tremendous change, and these are also things that one cannot own. One can deplore, but one cannot change. This is not changeable. One cannot say, let's stop here and go back to the old values or anything like that. That's not possible. And therefore, I think that we are also, perhaps for the first time in the history of mankind, in a situation where the old recipes we have, namely to stop, to reflect, to develop a counter scenario. I think these times are gone, and that, of course, has also something to do with the value, the position, the relevance, the discipline of philosophy in the world, which is probably one of your next questions.